You know what's jacked up about this situation though? Is that say Ebony K. Williams' child does grow up fucked up in regards to how Darwin illustrated it, right? We would never know. Why? Because in situations typically like this, nobody that child is not gonna go and look at their mother publicly and say, "Why the fuck did you have in vitro and never let me know who my father was?" Because that's not a thing. Now, had 50 Cent got her pregnant and he was an absent father, we would find out fairly quickly because that kid would grow up and say, "My daddy wasn't shit and that nigga was 50 Cent." And we would tell 50 Cent, "You ain't shit because you wasn't there for your child." But nobody would ever, that child won't come out and tell Ebony K. Williams, "Mom, you were fucked up for raising me without a father purposely." That would never, so we would actually never know how this kid would truly feel in this situation, knowing that their father isn't there.
And why is that? Why do kids never or almost never hold their mothers accountable?
That's the way, because mother's always right. What did Tupac say? Even though you was a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen. Even though she didn't tell him who his father was, she hid his father from him. He didn't find out who his father was until I think he was close to death, or if not, had already died or something like that, or the stepfather.
She told him a different man was the father. But look, I don't know if any of y'all listen to this, but like my father passed, and I told y'all it extremely affected me. Darwin told y'all he doesn't have his father, and it extremely affected him. If you turn on paternity court and see any of the kids on there who's searching for their father, it's an issue. Like I don't see how you could work around and rationalize that. That's
Marcus. Marcus, you're right, but and I don't want anyone to confuse my stance on this. Right, personally, may like this or not, I wish that Ebony K. Williams would never procreate at all, right? Optimally. However, when you're talking about involving another man on any capacity, I think it poses a deeper problem and more of a detriment to the child than her just doing this by herself for this particular individual case. It is what it is. Because she is so disagreeable that I couldn't see anything but a complete toxic situation out of it, where it would be a detriment to her.
You never really witnessed or had any examples of how she would
maybe you haven't.
Huh? But y'all both brought up the fact that y'all dads wasn't there. I can speak from the other side of having a dad there that fucked me up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna. It is the. I don't want to say the toss of the coin, but sometimes I would say vast majority in the Black community, majority come from a single parent home. I'm not saying that there has not been an impact for the dad not being there or the mom not being there. There definitely is. But when we look at overall, we would say majority of those single parent households, the kids have been fine in terms of being, citizen, working, being productive citizens and stuff like that. We would say the majority of them have. So I know some people did not have the option or the choice. If they had the choice of being, with their partner, they would have. If it could have worked out, they would have. I think in the difference with this situation versus the other situations is, like y'all said, she went in with a decision, knowing that the father, that she was going to be the primary caretaker of that child. So I think the way that she raises her child, I would assume, this is assuming, that is a totally different conversation that you're going to have with a child, just like a child who was adopted, things like that they know the situation, as opposed to knowing that you have a father and the father is choosing not to be there versus the other situation. I don't know which one would be worse. Knowing that you have a dad that is choosing not to be present at all, or knowing that you came from a situation that this person wanted you and created you out of a choice. So I'm just, I don't know. That's my toss up between those two.
I mean, I don't have really a toss up. I think whenever you look, if you try to look at it from what your own experience is, how the father treated you, and try to compare that to having a father, period, on a general basis, and that's just a case sensitive situation that you really can't apply to all people who would
What I
prefer
was
having a
saying,
father.
Marcus was saying that his dad, died and it impacted him. And I think your dad wasn't necessarily present and it impacted you. What I'm saying, it all depends on the quality of dad you had, like kind of what Sweeney was talking about earlier. Just saying that you have a
Yeah, I
father,
get that, and I was saying that
no
don't.
relationship.
My
Yeah, there
example
is no
was that it
relationship, anything like that.
right. My example
Or
was that
having a dad
it
there and
didn't.
is not a good dad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said if you try to make your stance on whether the dad is good or bad, to make a case on whether it's any good having a dad, period, or knowing that, and that's a case by case situation where people have been abused and beat or something like that on them. When you start moving the goalpost to there, then it's no way to look at it on a general scale. That's a personal scale, individual scale. But we're just talking about having a dad, period. I mean, you can look at that on a general scale because most people, everybody comes from nut sacks. So just knowing who the dad is, not necessarily, how he treated you, that's a whole nother different story then. So I think the first layer of just knowing that you have a dad and know who he is and knowing your lineage and all that stuff, I think that holds some importance in the person's life before you even get to the, okay, now how does he treat me? You get what I'm saying? Because he could be some shit. He could be some shit. But I would even argue that even if he is some shit, just knowing that you had a dad, that's justifiable. Even if he's broke or he's handicapped or some shit. Like,
Mistaken. Do you really think?
and I know who he is. He ain't shit, but I got one, and I know who the hell he is. I know who my grandmother is. I know the story. I know my history. You know what I mean? It's almost like a slave coming into America from fucking shit, not knowing. I mean, there's a reason why they took their last names. There's a reason why they cut off their languages. They didn't want them to trace nothing back. And I think a kid growing up like that, not knowing where the fuck he came from, is similar to a slave coming over here not knowing where the fuck he came from.
Mistaken. Do you really think it's a 50-50 toss up on whether a father would be good or not?
No, I meant in terms of outcome. So we're talking about, like, if I look at the majority of Black households came from a single-led household, particularly moms for the most part. Majority of the Black population who came from single-led households are productive citizens, although media have you thinking that most of them are in jail, most of them are on the street or whatever, just the way that media portrays that. But that's not true. So what I'm saying is, I think that her being a mom, if I lean on the side of stats, the child should grow up to be a pretty okay kid that is going to be a productive citizen and not end up in jail. You know what I'm saying? So that was more so what I was getting at when I was saying is kind of like a toss up. But
do you think them being born to single parent households is indicative that the father isn't there though? Or is it just that that person just so happened to not be married when they
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I would have to specifically look for stats, because when the stats say single led, it doesn't necessarily say whether they're co-parenting or the father's not involved at all or anything like that. So that I really wouldn't know. So I can't really speak to that aspect of it.
I saw it.
I think there's a study that was done or a survey that was done regarding that. I'm gonna have to figure. I'm gonna have to find out where it's at mistaken, but I'll send it to you. But I think it kind of does address that, whether they were married or two-parent, co-parent, or the father wasn't there at all. There was a study that was done on that.
If you're co-parenting, it's a better chance than just not having the father at all. It's a
Right.
better odds.